Kazanchi. Some of you may have gotten a tour from him earlier. He is a big reason why CodeCrush gets to happen every year. He helps us write grants and alarm going off. What? And he's my boss, and he is one of the best bosses I've ever had. So yeah, and he is a big reason this all happened. So give him a hand, and he is going to say a few things.
Thank you. So I'll formally welcome you again, but I would echo what Amanda said. The girls who are here today, I mean, you're one of 205. So all the committee members who actually evaluated your applications are in a task force, and I'll recognize some of them who are here, but they all complained that we couldn't bring all 200 kids over here. So I think that is a testimony to the quality of applications we got. So congratulations again, and congratulations to the teachers for helping us make this happen, because I know that without you, we wouldn't have done this. So I know that you have to take time off from your school and come here and spend 2 days. We give you a paltry sub fee, but that's nothing compared to the time you spend and the energy you spend here. So, and we appreciate your schools too. I mean, I hope you convey that to the schools and your principals that there are some schools that still struggle letting their teachers off, and I really appreciate the fact that your schools are allowing you to come here, and I hope you enjoy the experience. So what I'd like to do is I'd recognize some of our sponsors and some of our board members. Some are doing both the things for us. So just start with on my left, and I'll go around the room. So John Kehoe. He's the CIO of Valmont, and he's been a member of our IT board for the college and a strong supporter of CodeCrush. And then Pat Thren is sitting here. She is part of the Peter Kiewit Foundation, which recently approved a grant for us to, it's called a challenge grant. Basically, it's a $200,000 grant to fund our activities for 3 years from starting this year. And we're going to do 2 CodeCrush events a year because of all the task force members who really felt that we need to scale this up. And in addition, we're going to do a summer CodeCrush summit. So you're going to be back, I hope, because in summer we hope to bring in all the CodeCrush alums for a day-long event and on campus, hopefully. So that's coming, and then in fall we'll do a second CodeCrush activity. So Katie Barton is behind, and she is the director of IT at Gallup and a strong supporter of our CodeCrush program. Lynn Baldwin, she is the president and founder of Baldwin Hackett and Means, and been on our board forever. And plus, Lynn has a personal connection with our college. She was a faculty member in our college before she started the company. So, anyone else did I miss here? Okay, thank you so much again. Let's give them a round of applause. And I just saw Teresa there. So Teresa is from MITRE, and Teresa is also a member of our IS&T advisory board. So let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you. You should know that without them, without their support, and without the hours they spent evaluating your applications, which is 205 applications split across about 5 or 6 people, it took a long while for them to read everything and give their evaluation. So we really appreciate their time. I want to also recognize our real supporters for raising money here in the back, the folks from the Nebraska Foundation, Vanessa, Jackie, and Terry. They're sitting in the back there. So they have been staunch supporters of the CodeCrush program and the Women in IT program. And every opportunity they get, they help us identify people who can potentially donate and help you all come here with no cost to you. So this is, let's give all of these folks another big round of applause. Okay. I want to just kind of reiterate the fact that you are going to have an amazing experience here, I hope. The students are going to participate in a number of workshops that many of our faculty and staff have put together. The students are actually mostly being taught by our undergraduate and graduate students. So actually, you're going to have workshops with our students who are currently in the program. And the teachers are actually going to meet the faculty who design these programs. So the best part is that the teachers have something to take away. Hopefully, even if you're not a technology teacher, you take away a contact, a lesson plan, a module. We are willing to share anything that you want to take with you and take it back to your schools. And if the students have anything they want to take back from their experiences, we want you to have great memories. Remember to do hashtag CodeCrush on Twitter and Instagram, right, Amanda? We are still doing that. So we are, if you take pictures, put them out there. We'd love to have you hashtag CodeCrush. We did that last year, and it was a very popular thing to do. So we'd love to see it peak on Twitter, for example. So with that, I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker. Before I do that, I should say, we have a lot of staff here who are helping. With 4 and 5 of them are here. Bettina, Amanda already, Angela, Karen, Cassie. So they are all working in the college and spending some of their time in the next 3 days helping all of you get around and do the things that we need to do during the 3 days you're here. So remember to talk to them and thank them personally when you see them all through the week. And also during the session, we will have a number of our women in IT mentors who will actually be part of the activity. So for a lot of people who actually give one-on-one mentorship, and we have Pooja, where is, yeah, so Pooja and Abby are, Abby is a mentor for Pooja, for example, from First National Bank. So we have this group called the Women in IT Mentorship Group for current students. So once you are a student here, we don't let you just go off on your own. You actually have the opportunity to link to a professional mentor who can help you through any issues that you might have with your professional career and life in information technology domains. So that's really another part of our retention strategy. In fact, we retain more than 90% of our girls anyway. So that's the best part about our programs. And you learn a lot about all the different programs. So let me introduce Katie. Katie Selbe, who's right there, is a director, Air Command and Control Command and Control Division of Northrop Grumman Information Systems. She was the department manager of the Joint C4I Systems, and this the bio is in your. Yeah, sure. Katie is going to introduce herself. Thank you, Katie.
I know it's kind of a lot of acronyms and a lot of text. So yeah, so I run an organization called AirC2. We basically build command and control software that goes in military aircraft. We also build software that goes in what we call air operation centers, and there's 7 of them around the world, so it's kind of like the FAA for the military. So we do a lot of software development. That's the organization that I run. We have about 500 people scattered around the world, actually. We have some folks in Australia, and that's kind of what I do. My background, I have an undergraduate in engineering. I went to Georgia Tech. And I have a master's degree in systems engineering from George Mason. So I've been in the IT engineering field pretty much my entire career. And I'm going to quickly go through why STEM's so important. And it's a pretty big passion of mine because I have a daughter, and she likes to play with Legos and robotics and things like that. And I really encourage that for her. So I hope that she has people in her life that can talk to her and tell her why it's cool to be in STEM and IT field. So I'm going to share some stories with you about what it's been like for me in a male-dominated industry. So with that, I got a couple charts here. Okay, so first, first, I'm going to quickly touch on, let's see if I can get this working. Okay, so the STEM crisis. So you hear a lot of people talk about why is STEM so important nowadays, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm also going to touch on some of the cool STEM fields that you can go into. Then I'm going to briefly touch on why is diversity important in STEM? Why does it matter? Why do we care if there's girls that go into IT and engineering? What's the business proposition for that? Then why are there so few women in STEM? And I have a kind of a short video that iterates some of the reasons why women don't go into STEM. And then I'm going to share some stories that I have about what I've found being in a male-dominated society or male-dominated industry, and some tips that I've found helpful for me as I've gone through my career at Northrop Grumman. But before that, I was actually at a small company, so I haven't always been at Northrop Grumman. So this talks about, I'm sure you guys are aware of the STEM crisis, that as a U.S. citizen, we are falling behind. We've got countries that are starting to take advantage of some of our engineering fields. They're getting ahead of us. We used to be the world superpower and all those things, and I want to see more innovation, especially being in the aerospace defense, working with the government, and we see some of our adversaries, and we see China and Russia and all those folks that are getting ahead of us. If we want to remain a world superpower, we want to remain an affluent country, we've got to continue investing in our STEM education, and we cannot continue to fall behind. So it's very important that we continue to invest in STEM. Here's a couple cool things. You know, you hear about IT, they only do stuff in software. Well, there's a lot of other things that people do in the engineering or IT fields. You know, if you think about your iPhone, right? Think about what an engineering innovation that was when the iPhone first came out. I mean, I remember when I had my first cell phone when I was a kid, and it was a block. It was like a brick that was like this big, and I remember when I would go out and my mom would give me this brick, and if I wasn't home by curfew, I had this brick that was calling me. But think about the advantages that we've, the evolution that we've had in the iPhone and technology, and those things wouldn't have been possible if we wouldn't be educating our engineers in those type of fields. Think about you know, bridges. I was talking to some of the girls about physics. I mean, those are, I mean, we couldn't get from point A to point B. We kind of take some of that for granted, but think about if we didn't have anybody studying how to build those bridges, we'd be spending hours on the road trying to commute. Also, I have to put a plug in for Northrop Grumman, the B-2 bomber. Northrop Grumman builds the stealth bomber, and if you really study what that is, it's pretty fascinating military aircraft and its stealthy capabilities. And we also just recently won the long-range strike bomber, which is very exciting for us. So that's a big engineering feat that Northrop Grumman's going to be taking on, and there's a lot of cool fields and industry and jobs that are going to be available in that. And skyscrapers too, right? Those are some cool STEM accomplishments that we've been able to accomplish, and none of these things would be possible if we weren't educating men and women in the fields of engineering and technology. Now I'm going to kind of briefly touch on why does diversity matter? Why do we really care if women go into engineering? And this chart just kind of highlights we're not necessarily looking for diversity we don't want diversity in demographics. We don't really care about that. What we're looking for is diversity of thought. That if you have groups that are homogeneous, you tend to get groupthink, you tend to get, you know, everybody wants to minimize conflict, they have a common mindset, they're not really pushing the envelope. And the reason that we want diversity in our business and in our engineering fields is because we really want that diverse thought, because that's where innovation happens. We want to encourage healthy conflict. Conflict is okay. We want to encourage new perspectives, new ideas. We want to have breakthrough thinking so that we can lead into the future. So that's the business proposition about why does diversity matter? Why do we care? And it really does. I mean, I've been in especially going into a male-dominated organization, you do get a lot of groupthink. You do get a lot of the same. And I've seen teams that have been very homogeneous, and I've seen teams that have been very heterogeneous, and by far the heterogeneous teams are way more successful and way more innovative in coming up with new solutions, new ideas, making customers happy. And you know, it's just amazing that diversity does bring out the best in people and encourage people to think outside the box. Let's see. So next I'm going to show a short little video. I don't know, some of you may have seen this Run Like a Girl video, but I'm going to show a little bit about some of the stereotypes and gender biases that happen, and then talk about what that means for us. So let's see if I can get to that. I might let you. Okay.
Some actions to do and to do first thing comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl. Aww.
My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
I mean, run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. Yeah.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, I don't know what really, if it's a bad thing or a good thing. Sounds like a bad thing. Sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time, between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down, because during that time, they're already trying to figure themselves out. And when somebody says, you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swim like a girl?
Keep doing it because it's working. Somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing. That's their problem, because if you're still scoring and you're still getting the ball on time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. It doesn't matter what they say. I mean, yes, I kick like a girl and I swim like a girl and I walk like a girl and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that's not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm going to do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
You have a chance to redo it. What can't run like a girl also mean in a race?
So I don't know how many of you have seen that before. I know it's been played a lot, but I always think it's important to remember some of the stereotypes that running and sports and hitting. But if you were to ask those same people, what fields do you see girls in? What kind of answers do you think you'd get? Anybody want to take a shot? Sure. Fashion. Yeah. Yeah. Nurses. Teaching. Yeah. Yeah. You know, hairdressers. You know, those sorts of fields. But you know, think about what I'm asking for is what I'm trying to. The message here is that girls are really capable of anything, right? And we want to change those biases early, because those get ingrained in your. I mean, you see the 10-year-old girls, right? They have no knowledge of these biases, and then you start asking older people, and they start to generate these biases in their head that girls can't go into IT, they don't go into engineering, that's not who they are, those aren't fields for girls, right? And we all do it, right? The biggest influencers on girls are parents and teachers. So if we're all aware that this is going on, we can try to help with the message that we're giving some of the younger girls and encourage them to play with Legos, encourage them to go to robotics camp, encourage them to do whatever they want to do. And the flip goes for boys too. I have a son too. So if he wants to play with dolls, he can play with dolls. That's fine. That's his prerogative. Maybe he'll be a house husband. I don't know. But all those sorts of gender biases. So the biggest influencers and what we can do is try to change those type of perceptions. So I'm going to share a little story, and then I'm going to go into some tips about something that was really near for me in my career. And I remember after I had my first child, and I remember coming back to work. And again, I'm mostly in a male-dominated industry. I think I was running a large program at the time, and I pretty much have always had mostly males working for me. And I remember not wanting to talk about my children, not putting pictures of my kids on my desk because I wanted to be given equal opportunity to take on more leadership roles at work, to take on more responsibility, to lead larger teams. I didn't want people to look at me as a mom. I wanted them to look at me as a leader and as a peer to them. And I remember that I was getting stressed out because I was having to juggle lots going on, being a working mom and also having a job. And then I started to feel like I wasn't being true to myself, because some of the best attributes that I have at home are also some of the best attributes that I bring to work. For example, patience. When you have kids and your kids are learning to tie their shoes, it's a lot easier and it's a lot quicker to just do it for them. And come on, guys, we got to get out. We got, the bus is coming. Come on, let's go. So, but I remember those moments about trying to teach them to learn, and those translate when I'm leading large teams. And it's a lot easier for me to go in and fix somebody else's code. It's a lot easier, it's a lot quicker for me to just do it. But that's not the purpose, right? The purpose is to teach other people to have the patience to wait for other people to learn and make those mistakes. And I think those are some of my strengths at work. Some other strengths I have that I think I learned at home that I've translated into the workplace is my adaptability to adapt to any type of group or team that I'm asked to lead or be put in charge of. I have a daughter and I have a son, and they are like yin and yang. They are night and day. My son is very shy. He's very sensitive. My daughter is very outspoken. She is very fearless, would be a good word for her. And when both of them have been learning to read and write, when my son messes up, he gets very upset and he gets very, hard on himself. My daughter will mess up and be like, okay, so what? And we'll do it again and again. So I find that when I'm teaching my son something, I have to really focus on what he's doing correctly, focus on how to set an example for how he can do it again. When I'm talking to my daughter, I have to tell her, no, this isn't the way you do it, Caroline. You do it like this, this, and this. And then she says, okay, all right, I think I get it. But the purpose is that also translates into the workplace, because when I'm in group settings, I find that you have lots of engineers or you have people that are very outspoken, especially when we have design reviews of upcoming engineering projects that we're working on, or code reviews. You find these outspoken people sometimes get a louder voice, and the shy, maybe more sensitive people are scared to speak up because they're scared they might say something wrong. So I know that in group settings, I've been told that I'm good at making sure that everybody feels like they have a voice. And maybe those people don't like group settings. Maybe I need to get with that person one-on-one and have a conversation with them. What do you think of this software design? You didn't say much in the meeting. How are you feeling about this? So again, I think those are some traits that I have as being a mother and being a woman that I bring to the workplace that creates this diverse environment and heterogeneous environment. So I wanted to share just a couple stories with you that I have had, experiences that I've had on my journey through my career, so that you can maybe learn from some of those. So the next chart, I have some tips, and I'm going to kind of go through these tips and share some stories as I go through these tips that I've found. These are just tips that I have for how I've succeeded in a primarily male-dominated society. So one, first thing I say is speak up. And when I put that up there, I don't mean just speak up, be loud, be outgoing. What I mean is, if you want to take on more responsibility, don't just sit back and think that because you're doing a good job and because you're developing the best code that's out there, that you're going to get recognized and you're going to get promoted and you're going to be able to take on more opportunities. Raise your hand and go to your boss and say, I'd like to take on more opportunities. I'd like to try doing this project instead, because your boss is busy. He doesn't have time to always come and check on you. And so my point is, create your own destiny and make sure that you speak up and don't just sit back and wait for someone to give you opportunities. The next one I put up there is don't get offended and take things personal. I know, again, healthy conflict is good. It is good to disagree and someone to challenge your design or the way you're doing your coding or whatever you're working on, but don't take it personal. It's not a personal decision. It's business. So don't get offended, and it's okay to have disagreements. It's okay to disagree. That's not a bad thing. This next one, don't always take notes or get coffee or get lunch. I know a lot of times, especially early in my career, and sometimes I'm also, not only am I a woman, but I'm also generally young too. So I have two big hits against me in meetings. So if people ask for me to, I'm not saying don't help, but you want to be viewed as a peer with your colleagues. So don't volunteer to take notes or send out meeting minutes, or don't volunteer to set up the conference room or be the one getting the projector going, because you want to be viewed as a peer. It's okay to do it every once in a while and take your turn, but if someone says who can take notes, let somebody else do it. You want to be viewed as a peer and not in a supporting role. You want to be in a leading role. And that goes back to what you think of as women and the career fields you think women go into. Generally, when you think of fields, you think of like a nurse. You don't think of a doctor, right? Women can be doctors too. You think of them in these supporting roles or supporting functions, like they're in, HR or something supporting. They're not in a leading role. We've got to change that mindset. Know when to say no. So a lot of times I see it's okay to say no and say why you're not going to do something. You don't always have to agree with the norm or agree with what the group is doing. It's okay to disagree. The next one, play to your strengths. So this is something that you should be cognizant of what your weaknesses are. So some of my weaknesses are, I have a lot going on with different programs, so I'm not always into the details. So I know that's a weakness of mine, that I don't always know the bit and byte and how this program is working and how they coded and what they've reused and what is new code in this particular software application and what is reused code. I don't always know all that. I know that's a weakness of mine. So if I get in meetings and they're asking questions like that, I know I don't know those answers. So I try to surround myself with people who do know those answers, who do who fill my gaps. Some of my strengths are, I think, on my leadership style and trying to make everyone feel included, trying to really set the leadership vision of where we're trying to go, set the strategy for my organization of where we want to be in the future in the next 5 to 10 years. So I try to focus on my strengths. And I encourage you guys to do that too, that knowing what your weaknesses are important, but make sure you surround yourself with people who can fill those gaps, and then you focus on your strengths, because that's your value to the organization. The next one is a little bit about balance. Performance is improved when there's balance. I get the question a lot about, Katie, how do you do it? You've got kids, you travel, how do you maintain work-life balance? And my response is always, it's a very personal decision. What works for me, what is balance for me, may be different for you. What I feel guilty about not attending for my daughter or my son may be different than what you feel guilty about. So it's a very personal decision. It's a very personal choice. Don't ever judge anyone on what decisions they make about how they balance their life. But it's a very, very personal decision. I mean, there's things that I do, like on the weekends, I try to focus on doing quality, fun things with my kids, and we're probably never caught up on our laundry ever. But that's okay. I don't take that as a priority. Some other things I do, I try to set appointments on my calendar, since I live by my calendar to work out like 2 or 3 times a week. I set that appointment on my calendar and make it a private appointment, and I treat it like I treat any other meeting that I have, and it does not get canceled. And unless, of course, there's some cases if there's a customer meeting or my kids are sick or something like that, but I make it a priority because I am more effective at work if I have balance. I know that I am more effective if I get sleep and if I exercise and if I take time for myself, I am more productive. So I think it's very important to figure out what is balance for you and make sure that you honor that balance. So get a mentor and a sponsor. So and I'm going to explain a little bit about what a sponsor is, but a mentor is anybody that you would go to generally outside of either your chain of command in your organization, but it's someone that you can bounce ideas off on. For example, if you're coding and you want to know what's the best practice for a particular code, it'd be someone that you could go to and you could ask, hey, how would you solve this problem? It's really important to have mentors and to have people that you can go to and confide in and ask for advice. Sponsors are very different. Sponsors, they could be a mentor, but they may not be a mentor. A sponsor is someone who's going to advocate for you. A sponsor is generally something that's earned. It's not something that you ask someone for, but it's someone who's going to sponsor your career and who's going to advocate for you for that next job promotion or to get staffed on that job. And it's important that you know who your sponsors are, who the people who are advocating for you, and that you gain those sponsors. And you gain them by doing a good job on a program or a project, or you gain them by maybe it's someone that you worked for in a prior life, or it's someone that you've had business dealings with. But those people are important to know so that they can help influence your career. Maintaining your own board of directors. So this is, I call it your own personal board of directors. This is a group of people that family, friends, colleagues, mentors, sponsors, but it's a safe place that you can go to ask questions, especially as you move up in an organization. The decisions that you make have bigger impact. Like I said, I run a pretty large organization. If we decide that we're not going to bid on a project or a job, that's people's jobs on the line. These are big decisions that have big impacts. So it's important that you have a safe place where you can go and bounce ideas off of and say, okay, what if this, what if that? And it's important that you have that so you're not internalizing it and making all those decisions on your own. The next one, displaying gravitas. Someone once said that, especially as a woman, when you come into a meeting, don't sit at the back of the room, don't sit along the side, come sit at the table. You want to be viewed as a peer with your colleagues, so sit at the table. I'm not saying be arrogant, but display confidence. And at the same time, be humble. Be humble, listen to what other people are saying, but be confident in the position that you're in. Again, it's not arrogance, it's confidence. People want to follow leaders who are confident. Relentless curiosity. So this is, I think it's always important to ask questions and always important to learn. It kind of goes with the next one about embracing change, because things are always changing, especially if you ever go work for a big company. If you've been at Northrop Grumman, we reorg all the time. So you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's the name of the game, especially in our world when we have projects. We do software development jobs that are 6 months, maybe 12 months, maybe like 3 years, which that's a long time for a project. So you've got to continue to be curious and ask questions and learn so that you can manage all the change. There's a book I read once called, what's it called? It's about change. It's about change management. I can't remember the name of it, but it equates change management to whitewater rafting. And what it says is that we are in permanent whitewater, that we're just, there's so much change around us, and as leaders and as engineers, how do we manage through that change? How we manage through that is we take advantage of the swells. When there's a swell and we want to go fast in our raft, we take advantage of it. We avoid the rocks. If we fall out of the boat, sometimes we go with the current and then we get back in the boat. But the message here is that there's changes all around us, and we have to be willing to adjust course and be willing to learn to adjust course. So I think embracing change and being curious and always wanting to learn are things that go hand in hand, because the only way you manage through change is by always learning. The next one, on taking calculated risk. So again, challenging the norm, always asking why are we doing something, but being smart about it. You know, it's kind of like jumping out of a parachute. You don't want to jump out of or jumping out of an airplane. You don't want to jump out of an airplane without a parachute. Like, that's not very smart. But it's okay to jump out of an airplane if you got a parachute on. So when I say taking calculated risk, understanding what the consequences are if this does go wrong, what are the impacts? If it's pretty minimal impacts, then let's give it a shot. If it's pretty major impacts, then let's hold off and let's not take that chance. The other thing I think that goes hand in hand with taking risk is always having options. Someone once told me that no matter what, always have options, especially when you get into negotiation situations with when we're negotiating contracts with customers and things like that. Always have options. You never want to be in a place when you don't have an option. Like if you've already performed the work and they're trying to negotiate, you have no room for negotiation. So always have options and know what your options are. Never want to be in a place when you don't have options. And then do what you love and love what you do. I will say that I do love my job. I love the team I have. I love the customers I work with. I don't love everything about my job. There's some things I don't particularly like sitting in all-day program reviews. There's some things I don't love about my job. But I'd say 90% of what I do on a daily basis I do love. And I think that's really important because if you have a passion for what you're doing, whether it's software development, coding, whatever it is, I think you'll just permeate that passion to people that are around you, and people will want to work with you, want to work for you. I think it's really important to have that passion and really love what you do, because 80-90% of your waking hours you'll spend working primarily. So that's really, I think, the main messages that I wanted to get across. You know, the main thing is don't change who you are to fit a mold. Don't try to be someone that you're not. Be proud of who you are and the background that you have, because that sets you apart and that creates your edge. You know, I think that because I've gotten comfortable with who I am, I think that it's given me other opportunities to work other projects, because I'm pretty good at managing a team and managing through change, and I think that's been able to set me apart from some of my colleagues. So the message to you is to not change who you are and enjoy what you do. So if you guys have any questions, I think I got a few more minutes. If there's any questions or comments or feedback, I'll be happy to answer any questions or feedback, anything you guys want to ask about what I do or anything. Sure, go ahead. What exactly does Northrop Grumman do? So Northrop Grumman they're about a, let's see, $6 billion, $8 billion organization. We have primarily three sectors. We have our aerospace systems that builds airplanes. We build the stealth bomber, we build unmanned Global Hawks, we build unmanned vehicles. They build systems. We have another organization called Mission Systems, which does a lot of software development. We do radars, we build radars. And then we have another group that does technical services, which does more logistics. Our primary customer is the U.S. Air Force, but we also do sell some of our airplanes internationally, but we primarily build military aircraft. My group primarily does software, military aircraft software, primarily. Okay? We are headquartered in Northern Virginia, in Falls Church, Virginia. We have an office in Bellevue that does a lot of work with Stratcom and at Offutt. We also have offices around the world. We're headquartered in Falls Church, and okay.
Into engineering.
What got me into engineering? I always liked science and math. I was not an English person. My spelling is atrocious. If anyone asks me to spell words, my husband forever laughs at me because I'm a horrible speller. I liked math. I liked science. I liked doing science experiments. I was always kind of a tinkerer with in the kitchen with baking soda and all sorts of things as a kid. I just really enjoyed. I was always curious, and I was always. I also liked the feeling of building something and it accomplishing something. I liked that sense of accomplishment. So I guess what got me into it is I was good at science and math, and I was horrible at English. Yes, they are. I do have my kids' picture on my desk today, and I have actually the Christmas card from last year on my desk. I do have my kids' pictures on my desk today, and I'm a lot more open about my children than I was after I first had kids. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I had mentors. I did do a co-op program in school, which I think really helped solidify getting into engineering and software development. And so I don't know if I ever second guessed. I will say that I knew I always wanted to be engineering, but every engineering job I had, I think I found something I didn't like until I finally found something that I liked. So I have rotated around. I've been with Northrop for 13 years, but I haven't been in the same job for more than probably 2, maybe 3 years. So I've always moved around. So I wouldn't say I second guessed my career, but I'm always, looking to expand my horizons and take on more responsibility. But I have always loved the engineering field because I like the cool things that we build, the cool airplanes and the flight tests and things like that we do. But I wouldn't say that going into college, I wouldn't say it was like, I want to be in the aerospace and defense field. I wouldn't say it was like that. I actually worked in college. I co-opted with an IT company that built warehouse manufacturing software. And I knew that I did not want to be on a manufacturing floor. I liked the software side of it, but I did not want to be in a warehouse. So this is kind of how I did. Uh-huh.
When you ask questions, just let them bring the mic to you because we are on Google Hangout. So those girls who couldn't make it, they're actually transferring you on Google Hangout.
Okay.
What is a typical day like for you?
Typical day for me, gosh. So I have about a 500-person organization, and they're all around the world. So I travel a fairly significant amount. A typical day for me, let's see. I probably, on a normal week, let's talk about a normal week. I meet with customers probably once or twice a week. I have a weekly call with my main Air Force colonel. I have a program review. I may sit in on a program review where every month I have about 7 or 8 large programs, and we go through all the finances, the current program status, where they are with staffing, where are their risks, where are their schedule milestones. So I might sit in on a program review. I might have a customer call. I might sit on a business review where we're looking at a new project and whether we're going to bid it or not. So I sit in on a lot of those meetings. I sit in on a staffing meeting. I would say those would be kind of things I do on a normal basis. I try to get to all my sites at least once a quarter, so I am on the road a fair amount. Like a program manager or a software engineer, what they'd be doing on a daily basis is they would be, we have milestones. In the DoD world, we have a very structured engineering process where we have a SRR, System Requirements Review, we have a design review, we have a preliminary design review, a critical design review, we have a test readiness review, and generally those can span years or they can span months. And if you're an engineer working those programs, you're focused on whatever design review or whatever test readiness review is coming up for your particular software release or things like that. So if you're on a software program, you're an engineer on a program, you're generally focused on milestones for whatever software delivery you're working on. So hopefully that answered your question.
Is a graduate degree necessary?
I wouldn't say a graduate degree is necessary. I think everyone has an opinion on that. My opinion is that I would be more interested in the experience and the exposure that you've had. If I was looking to hire a program manager, for example, to run an engineering job, I'd be looking for the experience and the exposure you have to different customers and different problems, and not necessarily a graduate degree. Now, if I'm hiring a position that is doing research and development, I might be looking more for a master's degree, but it really depends on the job that you're applying for. I would say, for me personally, I'm more interested in your experience and your exposure, but a graduate degree never hurts. I
didn't see you raise their hand.
So you are in a leadership position, and leadership requires confidence. Do you think it is very easy for like women to get accused of arrogance at times when they are just being confident? And if at all you were in a dilemma where you were dealing with like a lot of men on board, how did you like have an aura or your vibe or your persona? How did you deal with that?
So how did I deal with having confidence or getting confidence?
Yes.
So I think someone once told me, and I kind of laughed when I heard this, that she said, "Fake it till you make it." So if people perceive that you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing, then people will believe it. So I think that a lot of it is personal and it's mental. It's okay to make mistakes. I think being accepting of making a mistake, because I haven't always made the right answers, but I've been open and honest that, hey, I messed up on this in this decision, and this is how I'm going to fix it. I think that confidence is also something that comes with time. I think it's not something that you can just have. I think after you've had a couple successful programs, I think that you'll gain confidence, but I also think that a lot of it's mental.
So I certainly agree that parents and teachers are the first and really the promoters and the primary factors in those decisions, but society isn't always up to date with all of that. So I'm wondering what advice you might have for girls who get comments from whoever, somebody in the grocery store or whatever, when just striking up a conversation and they are less than supportive. What kind of comments could girls get back?
So those would be people not on my board of directors. Right. So, you're always going to have naysayers. It's just the way of life. I mean, in any field that you go in, you're always going to have, there's no way that's possible. I think the most important thing is to be true to yourself and what excites you, what motivates you, and what you hear other people say. I mean, it's a data point. It's a data point, and those would not be people that I would ever solicit feedback for. It's just a data point. I think it's hard for younger kids to have that kind of perspective. I think as you get older, you realize it's a data point. Everybody's got an opinion, and everybody's is different. So I think that coming to events like this is important. I think surrounding yourself with people who are supportive and getting that board of directors that supports where you want to go is really important. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Thanks for your time. Oh, thank you.